Welcome, everyone. We are live, and it is Tuesday. Our coworker had her baby. I just wanted to start with that one. She had her baby, and he is so adorable. It is. Yeah, he is so adorable. Anywho, we live in the end naturally. We live in the end naturally. Well, how so? Well, we always see what we want. Good morning, dearest.
How you doing?
Good, good. See,
Awesome.
we live in the end, yeah, and we live in the end naturally. Yes, we do. How do I mean? And what is the end? End meaning you know what you want. You can see it. It's like when you plant your garden. You are living in the end because you planted the garden based upon what you wanted to eat. That is the end. So you see, naturally, we live from that place. We live from the end naturally. But things get a little complicated when we try to figure out the middle. The middle is irrelevant. Why is the middle irrelevant? Because the inevitability of planting and reaping. You always know what you're going to reap because you know what you've planted. So you see, we live from the end. But we try and say to ourselves, well, I want it to go like this, or I want it to go like that, or I want to do this. No, no, no. Plant. Because once you plant, you are going to reap. That's what made you plant in the first place. The end. What you wanted to reap is what made you plant in the first place. So when you're looking at things like relationships, money in the bank, the creature comforts that make us comfortable where we are for this time. When you look at that, you say, well, you know what? I want a good job. Well, that's the end. You want a good job. Well, define what good job means. Why would you define it? You define it because you must know what you want. Why? Because when you know what you want, you've planted the seed. Indecision. Oh, whew, I don't know what I want. Maybe I want this. Maybe I want that. Well, what about this? You see, when you make up your mind, you are, if you practice drawing sacred geometry, the seed of life, flower of life, tree of life, fruit of life, those kinds of things, the geometric shapes. If you practice drawing those, they all start with one thing, one circle. And this came to me way back in the day when I was first learning how to draw them, because I didn't know. And so I got my compass out, mathematical equipment you get in school. And I did the first circle and I heard, that's you. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Nothing was on the page before. Nothing was on the page until I defined that very first thing, which is mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. To define what you are is always the first step. Because once you define what you are, now you can do it again, which is the second circle. And the third circle, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh. And then all of a sudden, there's this thing. You've moved in every single direction. That 360 degrees you've moved. But it starts with defining yourself first. So you see, that's why we live in the end naturally. We say, I want to do this. I want to become this. And you see it. It's the end. And the end is the effect. Oh my. The end is the effect. And every effect has its cause. Which means you don't have to ask questions like, well, what should I do? What action should I take? You will take the only action you can take based upon the cause and the effect. Because every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause. So you don't have to figure it out. If your end result is, your desire is, I don't know, school, you didn't just say, oh, I want to go to school. No, you said what you wanted to take in school. And from then, because that desire, pardon me, because that desire is there, what do? You go looking at websites for schools. Which school do you want to go to? You pick that one out. Then you ask the question, do I want a student loan or do I want to pay for this myself? And you go from there based upon the answer. So every time, and you say, okay, fine, I'm here now at school. You already knew what you were taking. You enrolled in it. You take your electives because they fall into line with what you want to take in school. You see, things unfold naturally based upon the effect that you want to experience. So naturally, we live in the end. We see the type of relationship we want. If you don't see it yet, take some time. Don't worry. Just take some time to define who you are in the relationship. Oh, see, we spend so much time looking outside of ourselves as to what we want that other person to be. The other person at this moment is irrelevant. Why? Not because they don't matter as a human. Of course they matter. That's not what I'm saying. They are irrelevant at this moment in time until you define who you are. You define who you are, which is the effect in the relationship. Well, if you say, I want a loving relationship, I want a fun relationship, I want to be with my best friend, when you start defining who you are in the relationship, what your role is in the relationship. I'm not speaking of cooking and cleaning. That's not a role. That's not what I'm talking about. The role you want to play. Well, I'm a good listener. I'm empathetic. I'm gentle. I listen. I'll push back if I need to, but always from a place of love and understanding. What are you in the relationship? Once you define yourself in the relationship, you are the effect. Well, then, can you stop the cause? No. The cause will unfold and you will meet who you need to meet. Why is that? Because they will go right along as your match. Why? Because of what you've planted. You've planted yourself. So when they materialize, you don't have to ask questions. You don't have to say, well, does he do this? Does he do that? Blah, 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 blah. No. You have already defined what the relationship is based upon you. So when they come along, they match that. They match it naturally. And then the first thing you'll say is, oh my God, you're so perfect for me. Well, duh. You defined yourself. So, of course, whoever comes along has to be perfect. Now, here's where honesty with self comes in. If you move through the world from a place of desperation, what if I make the same mistakes that I always did with men or women? That is not a definition of oneself. That is a memory of the past. It is not a definition of yourself. It is a memory from the past. Because listen to the question you're asking yourself. Can I trust them? What if they hurt me like George did? What if they do what George did? Well, what if they do like Susan did, you know? Like, I don't know how men talk, but then that's a different question. That is not a definition of yourself. That is a memory of the past. And so long as you are looking at the past and interacting with the past, you bring it about all over again. Why? Because it is cause and effect. The effect, when you look at the past, you are defining the effect you want to have. You're looking at it, you're giving it your attention. And because you're giving it your attention, you have defined this is what I want. Whether you want it or not is irrelevant. As long as you give it your attention, you want it. You wouldn't give it your attention if you did not. But you see, this is the part we don't always catch. You cannot give something your attention and not expect to get it. So, defining who you are does not mean that you look back at the past. And that's why I gave the example of, but what if they hurt me like they did? What if, what if, what if they cheat on me like the other person did? What if they... You are living in the past, thereby defining your present, because you're giving the past your attention. Now, we are always going to have memories. We always do. I have many fond memories. Many of them. But you've got to put memories in their place. If you're going to look back at the past, when you interact with it, you say, oh, I used to be that, but I'm not that anymore. I am this now. Because when you define who you are the effect. You're defining the effect and bringing about the cause. Which means you're not going to have to fret, worry. Oh, you know, we like to worry sometimes. My grandmother was the queen of worry. Oh, indeed. Very nasty habit that I picked up through observation. But you know, we work through those things. And every time I catch myself worrying, I say, wait, whoa, whoa. Did you or did you not define who you are? And I said, well, I did define who I was. Then it is an effect. And what does every effect have? Its cause. So you're worried because you can do something about the cause? Or do you just choose the effect and the cause emerges? Fine. I chose the effect, so the cause has no option but to show up. But am I lying to myself? No. If you want to grow corn in the backyard, are you going to go buy pea seeds? No. What will you buy? Well, kernels of corn. Why? Because I want to reap corn. So, if you define the effect, you will bring about the cause. Okay, fine. Yes, you're right. That is literally how I talk to myself. Literally, that's exactly how I do it. Because sometimes we forget and we try and we force things. One never has to force. You don't have to force things. You see, labor happens naturally when the time is right. Unless, of course, there was an underlying condition that brought about its own effect. Every cause has its effect. So if it's premature, there is a reason. And once you find the reason, you'll sort things out, right? But labor happens on its own. It doesn't need to be rushed. But you see, sometimes we override labor. How? Adrenaline. Adrenaline will shut that down in no time. Because the cause of the adrenaline, every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. You see? And so when you realize that we naturally live from the end, you will comprehend that you don't have to fret about things. You don't have to ask, are we there yet? How long is this going to take? Ugh, I have to do this again. You won't have to do that. Why not? Not because you trust that every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause. No, you know. Somebody asked the other day, where do we go when we die? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. I said, but if I look out at the garden, it may offer some assistance. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, every winter, the Saskatoon berry bushes, they die. More so, I think. They just lose all their leaves, everything. And they go into a different state, a state of hibernation. They're still alive, but they're just moving very slowly because it's winter and everything moves. But in the winter, everything moves very slowly. So it appears to be no life at all. But in the spring, they get blossoms again. And what do they blossom as? Exactly what they are. So it's not a matter necessarily of where do you go when you die. The question is, what are you now? Because that is what you return as, not your form, your energetic signature, the seed, the essence that is you, the unseen part. What is that? It is comprised of things, your memories, but there's a signature. There's a signature to that, your essence. And whatever your essence is what you have to be, as within, so without. I can only look at nature. When it says to me, this thing goes into hibernation, but it returns. It returns. And it returns as what it left as. So you see, we're always living in the end. And that end is determined by who we define ourselves to be. If you think about it, the way we speak to ourselves, that inner conversation is of the greatest import. Why? Imagine, if you will, someone who knows they're beautiful. Someone who knows that they're beautiful. When they look in the mirror, they say, uh, well, I do it. I don't say I'm beautiful, though, because I don't see that for myself. I see that I'm cute. I'm pocket-sized. Oh, yes, I am. I'm a sweet treat, tiny morsel. That's how I see myself. Like a little pixie, if you will. Yes, I'm adorable. That's how I see myself. I move in the world as such. I do, right? I move in the world in that fashion. Now, if I said to myself, girl, you are like a garden troll. hmm If I look in the mirror and I feel disgust at what I see, I have defined it with that feeling. And I say, ugh, look at you. Ugh, I have just defined myself. And what I define myself as is how I live in the world. And if I move through the world with disgust for myself, what do you expect your behavior is going to be like? You're going to behave in that exact fashion because you've defined yourself as gross, icky, ew. Now, if you define yourself as intelligent, you can think beautifully, so on and so forth. That is how you move through the world. Somebody said to me, Angela, I used to struggle with looking people in the eyes. Oh, good morning. I used to struggle, Angela. But since learning the law, I don't have that problem anymore. Why is that? Because they, oh Lord, they saw themselves as confident. The effect, they saw themselves as confident. And that confidence, oh my, he's awake rather early. That confidence didn't just fall out of the sky. That confidence developed as a result of practicing the principles. Because when you start to practice them and you see how they unfold for you, and you're like, wait a minute, every cause really does have its effect, and every effect really does have its cause. Wow. Well, then confidence emerges from there. That is how we naturally live from the end. When you look at yourself and you say, oh no, I don't like that behavior, naturally you'll see what behavior you do like. Naturally you will. Because it's the saying and the seeing it. Oh man, why do people treat me that way? I wish people would treat me better. Oh, there's the end. And how do you want them to treat you better? Well, look at how they're treating you now. They don't listen to me, so you want to be heard. That's the end. I want to be heard. And what do you do to be heard? Speak. Naturally, what else would you do? If you want to be seen, show yourself. Naturally, so you want to be heard, then speak. If you say, well, I'm a good listener, well, then that means you have a closed mouth more than it's open. Obviously to listen, but not just listening with ears because you're not deaf, listening with the heart so that you can understand. That's what to listen with the heart means. It means you understand because we hear with the ears. We see with the eyes, smell with the nose. So what do you understand with? You understand with the heart, which means you know. So every day we define ourselves, whether we speak it out or we whisper to ourselves. So that's why if you catch that inner conversation, you will see what end you have defined for yourself. Man, nothing I ever do turns out right. How can you be surprised if every time you do something it flops? How? You have defined the end by saying, not with idle words. You did not say that with idle words at all. You said that with your whole chest because you've seen the evidence of it in the past. But that's why you could say, well, nothing ever works out for me. That's why you can say it, because you've seen the evidence of it in the past. But the only reason why you see the evidence of it is because you've defined it through whether it was indirectly, vicariously through someone else, or you doing it and seeing it unfold that way. So what do? Do you live in the past and say, well, man, nothing's ever worked out for me before, so I don't see why this time's going to be any different? Are you saying that to yourself? Well, look at that end. Look at that seed you've planted. So what does one do? Whatever should I do? You look at it and you see it for what it is, a memory of the past behavior, an old neurological pathway. So, how do you get a new neurological pathway? By defining your new action. You've seen it in your head. You have seen it in your head. I mean, you picked out your outfit. You didn't pick it out because it was just there. No, you saw it in your mind's eye and then you put it together. So it is that definition of the end that makes it unfold. Cause and effect. Correspondence as within, so without, as above, so below. So today, my beautiful friends, I shan't keep you, but I want to just put it to you so that you will apply it. And when I mentioned honesty with self, I wasn't just saying it because I was bored. We like to lie to ourselves. Hello? Trust me, I know this. I'm talking from experience. Well, we do it to ourselves all the time. But you see, honesty with self, admit where you are. Admitting has nothing to do with, you're such a loser. Look at you, you're so dumb. How'd you end up here again? That is not admitting, that is judging. And judgment is its own cause, bringing about its own effect, which is what now? Guilt and shame. Yes. And those are nasty little creatures. You don't want them. You don't want them. No. So don't pick them up. How do you avoid picking them up? Don't judge yourself. Well, you've heard, judge not lest ye be judged. Well, that sounds like the principle of correspondence. As within, so without. You hold judgment within. Well, you're going to have to judge everything on the outside because you're the one looking through the lens of judgment. So practice refraining from judgment. And how do you do that? By recognizing where you are and recognizing that you got there by doing certain behaviors and that you can get out by doing different behaviors. Do not get caught up in the but. I'm such a loser. How could I let this happen to me again? Oh, you don't have time for that. Because where you put your attention, remember the house plant? You water it, you talk to it, you dust its pretty little green leaves, and you tell it how beautiful it is and watch it blossom for you. But forget to water it. Don't even talk to it. Just pay it no, never mind. And what does it do? It withers and dies for want of attention. So naturally, that which you give your attention to will bloom. And judgment is like pouring vinegar in the soil and saying, but I thought it was water. It's vinegar and it will burn it and it will die. That's why you use vinegar as a natural weed control in the garden. Because it'll kill what you spray. It's acid. Hello, you know what? So today, my beautiful friends, comprehend that we live from the end naturally. The seamstress does not just get up and cut out a pattern. She saw the entire dress first. She saw the end result. Like last night, my son said, Ma, let's cook some steak. And I said, ooh, this sounds fancy. He goes, what are we going to do with it? He goes, well, I always make rice. I said, well, what do you want to make instead? He goes, well, I want to make rice, but what do you want to make? I said, well, and I just sat for a moment and I saw it sitting on a little a confit, a little bit of pumpkin, mashed pumpkin, just sitting on top of it with crispy potatoes, because you cut them with a thingy and you drop them in the oil and they flash, but they're really, really thin, like when you use a vegetable peeler. Yeah. And then caramelized onions. I said, ooh. And I just saw it flash in my mind's eye after I sat there for a moment. And I said, that's what I'm going to make. And I did the sides. And we can't forget the okra. We must remember the okra. I thought, well, maybe I would fry those. And I experimented with just one. And I said, it tastes good fried, but no. I'm like, it doesn't fit the image I have in my mind. See what we do naturally. It does not fit the image you have in your mind. So take your time and get the image right. Nikola Tesla was famous for it. He built many a thing in his mind's eye, and he tested it until he fixed it and worked all the bugs out so that what did he do at the very end? The only other thing he could do, build it. Well, how did he build it? To spec. Where was the spec? In his mind's eye. You do it every single moment of the day. When you say, I'm going to go grocery shopping, you already have the image of the store that you're going to in your, it flashes there. That's why you go. Oh, we think we go for the sales and the membership prices. No. If you say you're driving to work, you take the same route every day because you saw it in your mind's eye. So you follow it. And how do you follow it? Autopilot, because you've practiced it for such a long time. So you see today, my beautiful friends, naturally we live from the end. Naturally we decide what we're going to plant based upon what we want to eat. And eating is the end. It is. And when that thing moves you, you will act it out. We don't move unless we're moved. We move when we're moved. Yes? The internal movement happens first, and then you follow with the external cause and effect or correspondence. So, step one, acknowledge where you are and what you are going through. Because when you do that, you will define what you want to become. Why? Because you're looking at what you don't want. So if you're saying, oh, I hate my bare feet, clearly you're saying, I want some shoes. Oh my God, I'm hungry. Clearly it means you want to eat. Right? I want to sneeze, but it's stuck. Crazy. But step one, define where you are. Look at it. Acknowledge it. Don't judge it. Just, oh, that's what I'm doing? Oh, shoot. And now, what do you want to do? Define it. It is not complex. Hungry means food. Thirsty means drink. Naked means clothes. What are you going through? Well, then clearly you will see what the definition should be as to what you want to become from right there. And when you see it, you begin to experience in imagination what you would be doing in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. Somebody said the other day, I would just love to sit on the porch and listen to chimes and drink tea. That is the end result. That's the end. And if you leave it alone there, it will unfold for you, not through force at all, but by the desire to have it. It says, that would bring such peace, wouldn't it? And you say, yes, it would. And you begin to do what? Experience peace in imagination. because that's what you'd be experiencing in reality, as within, so without. And then, because that is the image that represents peace to you, it is like the pattern of the dress. You'll put all the pieces together naturally. And you'll be calling me from the front porch talking about, oh my God, it totally happened. Why would you be surprised? You put that image there. And the only thing for that image to do is to be projected outward so that you can live it out. Because why? You are rehearsing it in your mind's eye. You are rehearsing you have the image and the feeling that goes with it. You know, like if you see somebody in your mind's eye, you're like, I can't stand that fool. You have the image and the feeling associated with that image. Now tell me we don't do it every day. I'll wait. We do it every single day, all day. Now you will do it deliberately because mentalism, the all is mind. The universe is a mental creation, is telling you must be deliberate. You must define. And it can only come from you. I cannot tell you who and what you are. You must define who and what you are. Because definition must always happen. Definition is inevitable. It must always be defined because it has to have something to follow. So if you do not define who you are, because definition must always happen, if you don't define yourself, someone will define you. And they'll define you based upon what they want you to be. So this is why you have to define yourself as what you want yourself to be. As within, so without. Look at that. I am way over my time this morning. Anywho, who's here? Let's say hello. Oh, look, it's the better man in these YouTube streets. I see you. Now, I didn't see Liza in these streets on YouTube. I didn't see Liza, but I think of her because her name is Liza. Twitter, well, Twitter is part of the replay gang. Fan base, ooh, oh my. A girl could get used to scrolling. I sure can. Good morning, my beautiful KZ. It is lovely to see you. Miss Cherry. Ow. It's good to see you too. Moon and Dolphin Duck is in the house. Oxamite, where have you been? Where have you been? Oh my. You know what? Let me stop. Where have you been, sweetie? It has been a while. It is lovely to see you. Ghetto. Hey, girl. It is lovely to see you. Oracle and all seven and we'll, right? Seven is in the house too, I know. Miss Fawn. That's what made Lil Bit sing early. You. Y'all got this connection. That's what made him sing early, because you're here. Ray Ray. I see you, Ray Ray. Miss McQueen. I see you. Love you. Oh, oh, business. I see you, business life of a foodie. Ow. That's where I got it from. You. Big Mike? I see you. Listen, thank you all for being here. You show up so faithfully. But what I love is that you apply the principles on a daily basis, no matter how small you think it is, No matter how insignificant you might think it is, no matter how grand you might think it is, size is irrelevant. And really and truly, the size of the desire is irrelevant. It is the definition of the desire. Okay? Not the size, but the definition. Because you could long for this beautiful thing all you want, but until you define yourself as, well, then you remain as you are. Right? So, I do love you. And I will see you on the morrow. Because you know what tomorrow is? Tomorrow is a long day. It is. And so it's Thursday. It's the day we work morning and night. Yeah. It's all right, though. It's all right. I enjoy it. You know? So, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Fanbase. I look forward to seeing you. And I'm sure a little bit does, too. My cantankerous little one. Talking about he's territorial. Mm. I gotta take a picture of the way he looks at me now. He will turn his head and he will look me in the eye. Mm. That Rue. Oh, yes, and then he will proceed to try and get me. He will chase me. Oh, yes, he does. For that one leg, ooh, he is quick. So I walk in there with a blanket now so I can catch him. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And Biscuit, yep. Biscuit is a girl. 90% sure. I was 85% yesterday. I'm 90% today. She is a girl. Oh, yes, she is. My little Biscuit. It's almost time for her to go home, to the farm. I'm contemplating, though. Do I keep her? I can't have 3 chickens in the house. Go on, watch me. Listen, I love you guys. I will see you on the morrow. Indeed, I shall. Mwah. Much love. Much love to you.